Hey guys, DMS here. Today I have for you a review of the KZ ZSN Pro iems. Now these are super cheap, like $20 cheap, and you can get them on Amazon. So I have a few KZs in here, and I checked them out for a few weeks. This is what I have to say. I got my notes on my phone, so if you see me looking down, I am reading off these. Don't want to miss anything. So these are super light, mostly because they are mostly plastic, and they're pretty cheap iems, let's be honest, but they do have a detachable cable. A detachable cable is much more than I expected out of them, and it's definitely a big improvement over the old KZ cables, that's for sure. It's pretty comfortable. Most of that I think is due to the reasonably smooth design, which is, honestly, let's be real, a good idea to have a smooth IEM. That's why the Simgo EN700s are a very comfortable IEM too. They don't feel like they're just going to break, but they do come with a 1-year warranty, which is nice considering how cheap they are. Now, I do recommend, if you're going to get these, get aftermarket tips. I got aftermarket tips. I did my entire review with aftermarket tips on these. They're Dakoni tips. I will have a link to those in the video description. It helps with both sound and comfort. Now, this specific one has one dedicated dynamic driver and one balanced armature in the nozzle. So, dual driver, and the dynamic is something they call a double magnetic dynamic. Now, on top of that, these also claim to offer 26 decibels of noise reduction, so not the best, not the worst, but pretty good. More than you're going to get from most headphones, that's for sure. I'd say on par for a good IEM. Now I'm going to go through the list, and let's talk about sound. So, sub-bass. It's very well extended, as we should expect from an IEM. The sub-bass is a little bit boosted, though. Not overkill, but it is a little bit boosted, and it's going to have a little bit more impact. Bass and mid-bass is a little bit warm, but there's not too much bloom to it. There can be with some warmer mixed tracks, but for the most part, I didn't have a problem with this. Mid-range was pretty full, a little bit grainy at times, but once again, this is a $20 IEM, and then the lower treble certainly had a dip. Now, right above this dip, around 4 to 5K, there's definitely a peak. This kind of caused me to listen at lower volume levels. Probably won't bother some people, but it definitely bothered me just a little bit. And beyond that, there's definitely dips and spikes throughout the upper treble, but for most part, the upper end of the treble, like I'd say 8K plus, sounds a little bit recessed. Now with this spike at 4 to 5K, snare and vocals do sound a little bit shouty, so that might be a deal breaker for some. I found myself acclimating to it reasonably quickly, and the Dakoni tips certainly helped quite a bit with it over the stock tips. Now, like I said, the vocals can be a little bit shouty, but it is still reasonably clear, and nothing really sounds distant in the vocal range. Vocals are extremely pleasant, and that is definitely a plus. And overall, I would say the sound of this IEM is still better than the old KZ ZS5, which was still a pretty great IEM for its price, but KZ has definitely taken their time and made some improvements to their line since then. Now, with things not sounding distant at all, the soundstage is not massive. It is good for an IEM. I've heard IEMs that are better. It's nowhere near what you're going to get out of a headphone, like an over-ear headphone, but it is certainly reasonable and acceptable soundstage for an IEM, especially of this price range. And imaging, I would say, is average to slightly above average. Nothing that's going to blow your mind, but you can definitely tell where things are coming from. I listened to several orchestral songs with it. It was reasonably easy to pick out locations of instruments. There were a few times where things got a little bit muddied up. I tried it with gaming also. Worked reasonably well for that. Not as good as a good gaming headset, but definitely better than a cheap headphone. I'd also say the separation was kind of average, maybe slightly below average, but not for this price range, just in general. For this price range, it's still absolutely fine. And I would also say that this is certainly capable of resolving detail, but it's going to not play quite as well to music that is poorly mixed. That's the case with a lot of headphones, but you're certainly going to notice when a track is more poorly mixed on these, because more poorly mixed tracks tend to be shouty, and that's going to play off the shoutiness of this IEM. And lastly, for sound, it is definitely not very dynamic sounding. Dynamic range is okay, but I'd put it to average to below average. So in conclusion, this IEM is $20. Is it worth getting? Absolutely. For $20, it's a complete deal. And I had to remind myself frequently when evaluating it that I was probably going too tough on it at times, comparing it to IEMs that cost significantly more. Now, are there IEMs that sound better for double the price, around $50? Absolutely, you should be looking at the final E2000 if that is more your price range. But for the $20 area and a little bit above that, you're probably not going to beat these. I'm going to keep looking around and see if I can find something better, but if you get these, you're certainly not getting a bad deal. I'm going to say this one more time too. If you get these, I highly recommend getting Dakoni tips for them. No, Dakoni is not sponsoring me. I just really like their tips. They improve sound, they improve comfort, and universally I found them to work well on pretty much any IEM. So the KZ ZSN Pro, the final E2000, and the Tony tips will all be linked in the video description, and that's all I got for you guys. So if you like this video, please leave a like down below and a comment letting me know what you want to see in the future. If you want early access to videos like this one, you can check out the Patreon link in the video description or our community forum. And as always, don't forget to stick around and subscribe for more videos like this in the future. Until the next one, guys. Peace.
Everything is gonna be real right, but a man is gonna be rearranged. But a man is gonna be rearranged.